I'd like to thank everyone for coming out this evening for this public input session for the North Miami Geo Bond, North Miami Go Bond. We're going to begin off. We're going to actually ask the mayor to come up and say a couple words before we start, and then we'll get
Good
going.
evening. I saw a good number of you earlier today for the State of the City. I was just at the Coven. So were you there, Kenny? At the Covens, the State of the City. Oh, okay. Well, you missed out a good event. It was salmon on the menu. But on a serious note, we really thank you for actually showing up tonight. This is a very serious issue, the general obligation bond that we're trying to levy. And as you know, the city of Miami, just passed one, 10 days ago? The 7th. So, but of course, the reason why we are really entertaining this idea, as you know, the city is 90 years old. The infrastructures, outdated, and resiliency is the main thing that is driving this endeavor. And like I said earlier, it's like you have a house that is like 90 or 50 years old, and you don't have much money to really, make do and make the repairs, the roof, the windows. What you do is you go out there, you look for a bank to advance you the money so you can fix your home. And but doing it, we want to do it as transparent as possible, as responsible as possible. As a local government. And as you know, we've done, how many, 2 town hall meetings in the past. And we've discussed it on the dais many times, and people have come and opine and give, their concerns about it. But we really, like I said, what we are trying to do here is really prepare for the future. And North Miami cannot continue with the old infrastructure that is had for the past 90 years. It only makes sense for us to do this, but we'll do it with your input, with your guidance, so we can be, as responsible as we can be and as transparent as we should be and that we ought to be, that we will be. So with that being said, thank you very much for coming, and we'll start the conversation so we can see where that takes us. Thank you very much.
Right now I'm going to turn it over to Larry, and Larry will, the city manager, I'm sorry, Mr. Larry Spring. Everyone, if we could get you, if you're sitting with a bunch of our staff people, try to move to one of the tables. Oh, let me introduce our other council people. We have Councilman Galvin that's here. I know I've seen Councilwoman Carol Keys here as well. I'd like to thank them. And we have David Burney for the chamber here. You're mixed in with a bunch of our staff people, but I don't want them to participate in the exercise that we're going to do tonight because it really needs to be information coming from the residents. At this point, I'll turn it over to Larry, and he'll go through it. And after he's done, I'm going to explain the folder that's on your table, and we'll talk about the folder that's on your table.
Thank you. Thanks, Arthur. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning, so I'm a little tired. I've been all over the county, it seems. As the mayor just stated, we have had, we've had a number of meetings, a bunch of discussions around this capital investment plan and this capital raise, particularly as it relates to what our needs are. We had an agenda item a few weeks ago, and we got direction from our council based on feedback from that night. Let's go back out and get some more public input, and do some more listening to our constituency. So myself and my staff, particularly Arthur, has been working on this. We put together an exercise agenda for tonight so that we can listen to the constituents and see what they have to say. And Arthur will go through it a bit. One of the things that I know is a major point of information that everybody will want eventually and has asked for. And we have actually had our financial advisors do some work around this is, well, how much is this going to cost and what it's going to look like? And we were going to go and present some of that, again, based on our estimate of and our projects and what we came up with. And I decided tonight, let me put that on the shelf for a minute. Let me hear what projects that you want, and that way I can go and get a better estimate of what that might be. I know sustainability was something that was largely brought up at that council meeting, flooding and those issues. We know as a city administration, we do need investment in our facilities, in our roads. We've already done the citywide conditional study. So we've been putting together the pieces to support what we really need. I mean, hell, tonight, this was set up. We were coming here ready to work, and the AC's not working. Again, just another one of those things that, you know, is an indication. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. Well, I think we've talked about this before, which is what is the general obligation bond? For us, the plan was to come to the taxpayers and ask for a special, it'd be a special assessment against your taxable value for the sole purpose of paying a debt service on a bond. It's the same structure bond that Miami Gardens just passed, the Miami-Dade County School Board, Water and Sewer at the county, and the Public Health Trust, and actually in the one the City of Miami just passed last week. So that's the structure we're looking at. As we continue through this process, and it was one of the other requests that was made by Council BNMA, we are also looking at revenue bonds, which would be taking a specific revenue source. In the case, a good example of that, we get surtax money from the county for streets and road and transportation projects. In theory, we could take that revenue stream as opposed to using it as we do now, which is it supports the NOMI shuttle. Well, we could still do that, but we do capital projects with that money, but we do it as a pay-as-you-go. So if we have $1 million this year, we do $1 million worth of road work this year. I could potentially look at, and we're going to analyze this and come back in a few weeks, we could take that revenue source and actually go borrow against it over 30 years and come up with a $40 million pot all at one time, as the mayor's example was about borrowing to do home repairs, and go out and do a full capital plan at one time and then pay the debt off from that revenue. So we will be looking at those type of transactions as well. But for tonight, you know, we're kind of focused on this millage debt, and we want to be focused on what you think are important. And Arthur's going to walk you through some categories that we've come up with and an exercise that we think will help us ascertain from you, and then we'll talk through it a little bit. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Arthur. But before I move on, Councilman Galvin, Councilman Keys, is there any additional feedback you'd like to give before we get started? I don't see him yet, so. Oh, okay. Councilman Benny apparently just walked in, but I can't see him. So, no. Already, yeah. With that, I'm going to pass it over. Thanks.
Yeah. So everyone has a folder on their table. Inside the folder is basically our needs or categories that are there. The first page in there is the staff identified possible projects. These are the projects that you've seen during our presentations, the projects that, people have yelled about, complained about. These are just, but they're proposed projects. They're not projects for sure for the bond, but they're broken down into the same categories. After that, you have your sheets. There's one for each category. We're going to take 5 minutes per category. We're going to give you 5 minutes to go over the category and look at the projects we have and write down what projects you think we should be doing. And that will give you your input. What we're going to do when you have your 5 minutes, you're going to write down all of your projects. We'll take the top one from each table, but we're going to ask for these sheets back that you are filling out because we do have another session next week. We're going to come back after the next week's session, review everything together, put some numbers together with it, and then we'll have another session or 2 sessions to say what it comes out to, what it costs, and then we'll start doing the financial stuff. Again, we want everybody to please participate. I ask that staff not participate, but if you do have questions for staff, say Parks and Recreation, Derek Corker is here. The staff person responsible for everything is here. If you raise your hand, they can come by and help you if you do have any questions. So we're going to start off with Parks and Recreation. And I'm going to start my 5-minute timer. Please participate. I'm asking you to participate. Let us know what projects you want. Write them down in your group. You discuss them in your group. And let's figure out what you guys want to see as far as Parks and Recreation. We're going to start our 5 minutes right now. Thank you. I get everyone's attention. Everybody's attention, please. Table 2. Can you give me...
Okay, with regards to parks, looking at Cagney Park, where the pools are supposed to be, we were supposed to have tennis courts, we were supposed to have handball courts over there. At the stadium, the men's room, the facilities, not men's room, but the facilities are not working. It's absolutely closed. That's one improvement. Also, something that I think we should be looking at as a city, holistically, is the preserve that we have on 135th Street. That could be absolutely gorgeous. We should be putting money out there, looking for grants, so forth and so on, maybe private-public partnerships to work on that preserve out there. Bill has more.
Come on, Bill. Laura, who's speaking for you guys?
Yes, I'd like to make note of Mocha Plaza. Okay. Make note of Mocha Plaza, which is a little bit deficient to our current needs. There is the opportunity for us to create a mega block, a city-owned mega block. The city owns the vast majority of that, which is bounded south of 125th Street, going to 123rd Street, which comprises City Hall, Mocha Museum, the police station, and the parking lot that's there. If we were to somehow trade off for that private land, the really underutilized strip mall, the Creme, the Mocha Cafe and such, if we were to trade that off for other land the city might have, possibly to the east, the city would have that entire block. What we could do is then it would allow us to mirror the park, to mirror the existing Mocha Plaza space, which creates sort of a home plate, like a diamond shape, which would allow a better view towards the facade of Mocha Museum when you're going east. When you're going west, it looks towards the existing parking lot just north of the police station. That space north of the police station could be the location for a new city hall, because it really doesn't make sense to take the same city hall location, destroy a perfectly good building, relocate everybody, rebuild it at that same location, and then lose all that value. It would allow us to build a city hall eventually at that location between the police station, and it would have park frontage as well. It would allow us to achieve that at little, if no, possibly no cost. If we do this as a trade-off, you'd have to, of course, give the owners of that strip equal or better value, but it is doable and it's good for the long range. If we were able to do something at Mocha Plaza, that's sort of the heart of the city, it benefits all the districts and all the residents. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Now we have table 5 over here, Laura Hill.
Hi. We looked at, hello? Okay. We looked at the projects. We felt like In a city our size, we don't really need two major sports complexes, Cagney and Pepper. So we suggest that you choose one. As far as the stadium goes, we feel like FIU should pay for the upgrades and not the bond. Additional maintenance to upkeep the existing green spaces plus the parks. If we have lovely parks here in North Miami. A lot of them are neglected with trash and just kind of deteriorated. We would support a position that would be essentially a park ranger that would go from green space to green space, park to park, to make sure that they're clean, they're updated, they are ready for North Miamians to use. And additionally, a overhaul of Sasso Pool would be a good use of recreation money, since that's our only pool. We did just put some money into upgrading it, but there's still a lot of cracks in the actual pool, and it could use a major overhaul, especially since it's taking so long for Cagney Park to open. Okay, that's it.
Ms. West, do we have somebody from there? Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. I guess at our table, we didn't have that much voice, but with the exception of talking about Pepper Park and redoing the baseball stadium, and to add, put money into building a track for runners and walkers. Now, as far as the stadium over at FIU, if this is going to be a mixed-use stadium, that the city use it sometime and FIU use it sometime, I think that we should get them to help pay. Okay? And then as far as he talked about Mocha and doing some renovation and construction over there, if that is our downtown, we really need businesses. And the businesses that we do have over there, they need to open for business. Because most of the time you come through there, they're closed anyway. So why put money there if there's not really a true business in that area?
Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Fernando Pierre, representing Table 1. And in our table, we discuss recover land previously dedicated to the Armory. Also, rebuilding the North Miami Pool. We have an empty lot on 135th right next to the middle school. That land could be perfectly used to recover a pool for the city. Also, we also discussed about the movie theater on West Dixie Highway. If we could bring a movie theater there, that would be great and perfect. Also about Arch Creek, we can also use a great cleanup there, more garbage cans, and have more duck control. Thank you for your consideration.
Chairman Garrett, representing Table 1A in the rear. All reasons are provide bigger dog parks and available green space within the city, advanced technology and lighting for safety and security purposes at all city facilities, especially Gwen Margolis. If you noticed tonight when we came to Gwen Margolis, it's been dark, and it's been dark now for 2 decades. Modern facilities for families like wet tot lots, skateboard parks for youths, and walking paths for adults. Acquire more green space in the city, more green spaces, and native trees, plant native trees, and true modern municipal swimming pool, diving pools in the city. Build a new pool for the east side to replace Gribble, and renovate Sasso Pool to modern Sanders, and that's Table 1A.
Thanks, Jeff. We got one table left. We're waiting on a spokesperson from this table back here.
Okay, good evening, everybody. All right, I don't know if this exists or not, but we feel strongly that we do need concession stands with restrooms at the Ben Franklin Park. I haven't been there in a long time. I understand there's soccer facilities, but I think having concession stands is very important. And we feel strongly at our table that we do need both Cagney, and Pepper Park for North Miami, especially with the youth that are on bicycles or on foot. They can't be going so many miles out away from home. I think both parks will be well served for our community. We also feel strongly that upgrading the LED lighting and security at all of our public parks is a must. And there's also a comment that to look at the case studies for our soccer facilities. Is it justified? Are there profits? And so on and so forth. Also, a comment was made about the old movie theater on West Dixie Highway, the old Southland Theater. And the youth of North Miami, other than our parks, which are great, when they want to get together with their friends, I mean, what options do they have? Oftentimes they have to go outside of North Miami to go to a movie, to go to a bowling alley, to go have some fun. So I think having some safe alternatives within the city creatively would really benefit our youth. Thank you.
Please, we're going to have Francisco right now is going to come around and pick up your Parks and Recreation paper. And it's going to go, and we're going to have all of this stuff's going to be online. Matter of fact, we have a website. On the City of North Miami's website, we do have a page for the bond. And we're going to be updating the page with the information you've given us through as we go through this entire process. So Francisco's going to be coming by to pick up this paper. Don't try to keep the paper. We need the paper. That way we know exactly what you want and we can put that stuff together. The next one we're going to public facilities. This is a public facility. We have several public facilities. Again, on your paper, on your staff possible projects, there's a list of some of the public facilities we felt that maybe we can upgrade. However, whatever facility you feel should be upgraded, please put it down on the list. If you think the facility is just fine, then let us know you think some of the facilities are just fine. But those are some proposed lists, proposed projects for public facilities. We got 5 minutes, public facilities. Please begin now. Thank you. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, again, Bill Previtel, Table 2. One of the ideas proposed is that the second floor of the police station, it was originally meant to have a firearms practice range, and that was one of the suggestions. I'd like to concentrate a little bit more on something that's a little more popular, has been more popularly discussed, which is the possibility of a parking garage, a public parking facility. I think it's quite important that it be properly located and quite rationalized in its positioning. If we were to have, right now downtown really doesn't have a parking problem. But if the city happens to grow, if things happen to come together, then there might be a need for this additional parking. Where should that take place? Who are the people downtown? That's City Hall members, MOCA people, and the police station. Why don't we locate the parking garage on that same mega block? Why don't we put a parking garage just south of MOCA? It's currently used by the police department. How would that work? We'd have multiple levels. The lower level would be accessed from the west, from the police department, and they would have a secured lower level for their complete use. Now they've gained covered parking about the same amount of spaces. The upper levels would be accessed from the east, and that would be more public parking, City Hall people, MOCA people, when they come to MOCA events. By putting it in this location, just north of 123rd Street, we eliminate the possibility, as people have said, let's put a parking garage in the big empty space next to Dollar Tree to the east of City Hall. Well, that gives us the complication of not only is it further, but the possibility of having to shut down 8th Avenue. We don't really need that. Let's put it south of MOCA so that people can walk across this block, go to MOCA Plaza events and to the other facilities there that the city takes care of the city needs. In addition to that, MOCA has talked about expansion. If we build a, let's call it a 5-story parking garage, the top level could be used as an outdoor sculpture court for MOCA. Rather than them taking up space and building on MOCA Plaza, they could still build within their triangle if they want to enclose space. But what a great feature it would be to have the 5th floor, or whatever floor it is, the 4th, 5th, or 6th floor of this bridging across to a common MOCA elevator. The garage would use the same service elevator that MOCA could use, a large, heavy-duty industrial-type elevator. And therefore, we would be able to have this somewhat unique facility. It would be giving in to the people who shot down the original bond for MoCA expansion. It would throw them a bone. It helps the police. It doesn't eliminate any roads. It's a long-term investment. Even as the slope goes up to the last level, that can be sort of an amphitheater because it would be sloped in the middle with sculpture corridor all around. Thank you for your consideration.
It's a great one there, Bill. We didn't think of nothing like that. It was a real good one. Come on, Bob.
Thank you. Rather than go community center by community center and try to figure out what needs to be done, I think somebody can look at the community centers need work. Some need a lot of work, some need less work. As opposed to demolishing 5 community centers in the city and rebuilding them from scratch, because those buildings aren't necessarily overutilized today. Why don't we figure out on a case-by-case basis what needs to be done? In some cases it might be a big redo, in many cases maybe not. But certainly to spend $800 a square foot to rebuild a community center may not make the most amount of sense. The City Hall and the Government Center, I mean, that's long overdue. That rebuild is completely necessary. Back to the community centers for a minute, I mean, just a couple of recommendations when you look around. Parking is inadequate in many, if not all. And we've got a shuffleboard court over by Griffin Center that could certainly become a portion of whatever we turn that into. And we think the MoCA funding should not come out of the general obligation bond. There's other sources of funding for that, and I just don't think the city has got an appetite for that at the moment.
Thanks, Bob.
I guess we need to upgrade that Sunkist Grove and give it a state-of-the-art center. But when it comes down to Keystone, the Griffin, Gwen, Margolis, Enchanted Forest, MoCA, and the Nomi Plaza, it makes no sense at all to put any money in that if you don't fix the problem with the sewage and the storm water. Now you may say, oh, we only get it in the parking lot. Well, I used to get in the parking lot. But as the years go by and we have the storm water and the sewage, we have erosion of the ground, and guess what? You're just putting money in a situation that's already bad. If you don't fix that first, it don't make any sense to build these things because it will be a waste of time and a waste of money. I really think that you should think the bond that you're floating, is that really enough money in order to, fix the drainage system and to fix the flooding, the sewage, before you think about these fine buildings that you're going to put on top of a big mess. Because, it's a waste of time and a waste of money.
Evening, everyone. From table 1, we decided on the MoCA expansion and also on the Nomi Center to remove the portables and have the new City Hall with the design of the old City Hall from 1950. And that is all. Thank you for your consideration.
I like the outside the box thinking. Table 1A, expand MoCA Museum to meet AMA standards. Expand or existing library. That's our second. Or third one is improve or interest gateways into the city, including the I-95 access ramps, the Gratney access ramp coming off of 17th Avenue and 119th Street, and the Broad Causeway interest coming from the east and west. The other one is build a transit-oriented village at Northeast 14th Avenue and 123rd Street for the incoming Tri-Rail Coastal Service, and public access restrooms like big cities in Europe. That's our contributions.
Spaces for guest artists from other countries or other places in the country. And at the same time, they have workshops, they teach classes. It's a vibrant community. And maybe I'm misinformed or I've been too distant, but that's not the experience that I've had with MoCA. Also, one thing that I'm thinking about is, for example, in Memphis, Tennessee, they figure out they had UT, they had a lot of medical facilities in the Crosstown area. And so they decided to dedicate that as a biomedical district, using tax credits and all kinds of other tools to attract businesses that would conform to that description. And one of the things that I see when I look at North Miami is I cannot identify its character. And I think that's an important thing to do. You know, I'm thinking outside the box, but that's what I have to say.
Okay, make sure you write your MoCA idea down, because that was a very good idea. Community policing. We're on community policing now. Somebody's going to come around and collect your public facilities. We're on community policing. We did speak already about the EOC parking garage. On community policing also, Shot Spotter. Basically what that is, that's we will put up satellites all over the city. If anybody shoots a gun, it triangulates the position of where the gun was shot, so the police will know immediately where the gun was shot at. So that's what Shot Spotter is. And the automatic license plate readers, those will be readers that are on all the city entrances. And basically, if somebody comes in our city in a stolen car or anything, it automatically reads their license plates, and then it comes and let us know that somebody just who's in a stolen car just entered our city. We know they're in our city. It'll let us know if one of our cars leave the city, you're looking for your car, we'll probably be able to find out which way your car went. So community policing, we're going to go with 5 minutes now. Thank you. We're going to let our former chief start it off. Community policing, everyone please pay attention.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, when we built the police station, I guess it was approximately 20 years ago, we have the one wing out there which we reinforced, and you can build on top of that. And one of the things that we had suggested, and I talked to the chief, I think it's a great idea to put a police range up there amongst other training items up there, but definitely a police range. First of all, it's going to save our guys time traveling back and forth. Firearm skill is a perishable skill. We have to qualify. We used to qualify, I don't know if they still do it every 3 months, but they could do it right at the station while they're on duty and go back out to work. And we wouldn't have to really shortchange the streets. So I think first and foremost, that's absolutely essential. The Shot Spotter, I think the chief can talk to that. The Shot Spotter, I think, this is new technology. I'm an old guy, but the Shot Spotter, I guess, works on intersection, resection, where there's gunfire in the neighborhood, you respond to it, and you can make an apprehension. It's absolutely, I think technology today is marvelous. The automatic license plate reader, I'm definitely with the chief on that. I think the Miami Beach has one on that, if I'm not mistaken. And you'd be surprised how many people that you will apprehend. The other thing that I would suggest is, like on our public facilities, we expand our video systems, our cable televisions, even on our public thoroughfares. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take this serious. Terrorism Committee for a number of years. This is some real stuff. We never know when the terrorists are going to strike. You had an incident in New York where the guy made a pressure cooker bomb. Because of the cameras, they caught the guy, okay? We don't know when it's going to happen, where we're going to get hit at. We're a soft target. It could happen to this street. And let me tell you something. It's not going to be the National Guard, the FBI, the 82nd Airborne coming in as the first responders. It's going to be the North Miami Police Department. So don't forget that, first and foremost. The world dynamics have changed, and changed immensely. So we do live in a world, we used to call it asymmetrical warfare. It's terrorism, and it's hot and home. So the more cameras we have out there, the better, the more secure we are. I hear people saying, well, it's a big brother. Well, you know what? The Supreme Court and in our Constitution states, the public right-of-way is the public right-of-way. You don't have an expectation of privacy out there. Thank you.
Gwen, you guys have something outside of that? Come on down.
Well, your cameras and your satellites and all of that fancy smancy stuff, you know, is great. However, if you have to abide by the state statute and you cannot arrest them because you do not, you can't do it because the state says whatever. What's the point of having all of this stuff if you know where they live? You got the address, you got the tag number, you know everything about the person that's committing crimes and breaking the law. And he lives in another little city, don't live in North Miami, and you don't have the jurisdiction to go and arrest this person. And he gets away with murder, or he may get away with your terrorist attack, because we have to follow the rules of the state. Please, what's the point? We can have more cameras. What we really need is more visibility of our police officers on the street. No, you may say we don't have enough or have the money, but now you're floating the bond. You can probably give them a raise and put more police officers on the street. When I moved to North Miami, they had horses, police officers on horses and on motorcycles. I hear that there's only one substation in the city. If we could have more substations, as far as, all that stuff is fine. But if we don't get some information from the state how we can work it within our community, that we're able to go and arrest people that commit crimes, that too is a moot point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I would like to start off by giving thanks to the North Miami Police Department for their service. With that being said, according to Table 1, we've decided that the North Miami Police Department is short-staffed, and we are pushing for an increase in staff. But at the same time, it's just impossible to have a cop at every single corner in the city. So we decided that we should promote neighborhood watches and make their jobs a little bit easier, and we can reduce crime by having a neighborhood watch. Also, we decided there should be ways such as using social media to give the public safety tips, and that will also reduce crime in the city. Thank you for your consideration.
Table 1A, we do not support proactive community police strategies to be funded by any bond issue. It should be funded by the general fund, as technology is rapidly changing every 1 to 3 years. This cell phone wasn't even around 30 years ago. We're asking to fund whatever we're asking now over 30 years. This stuff will be outdated within 3 to 5 years. Technology is changing so much, we don't even know what is going to be invented tomorrow. That's number one. Number two, we can't stop the terrorists at everything. We just have to be smarter. We have to be smarter than them, and that goes at the national level. And if they're going to attack us, they're going to attack Bell Harbor before they attack North Miami. So that's mainly our point. And the best community, I said the best, this is mine. The best proactive community police strategy is a job. If you give people jobs, they're not going to commit crime.
Okay, great with Jim. Bob, you guys are the same line of everything else? You guys are the same line of everything else?
I think we got a consensus at this table that this project is worth to look at and entertain from for lack of a better word. The safeguard issue is a concern, and I think the plan in place will give our police department, the intermission, the resources available to capture and to reduce the crime. I think is a very good project. We need to look at it deeper and to see the funds available to push this project forward.
Infrastructure, streets, sidewalks, utilities, you have the whole list there with you. I think we had, I know Tommy would be able to tell us how much road work we needed. I'll let Tommy come up and he'll tell us some of the numbers on that number we had for $3 million. How much was that, Tommy? Yes. So to fix the worst streets and the worst sidewalks in North Miami would cost us about $13 million. That's the worst. $13 million. The worst streets and the worst sidewalks in North Miami. That's not all, that's just the worst. And I think that number was, I don't know how many streets was that. Do we know, Tommy? Road work would include the drainage, yes, ma'am. And Tommy's got to look, but go ahead and start writing, and Tommy will give us that number of what that was. That includes drainage. Okay, we're going to get started on infrastructure. Bill Provitel, Chief, which one of you guys? Chief's coming up. Here we go, everyone. We're starting out.
Okay, folks. Hello. Okay, street drainage, paved streets, curb and gutter, new street lights. Instead of those plastic street lights we have out there, let's get some classy street lights. That looks like hell. During the hurricane, they all blew over, those plastic things. They're all faded and what have you. Sidewalk improvement, a swale improvement. And one of the things that I'm concerned about, I understand that the water plant is moving forward with its progress, but we mentioned this before, if we're going to grow this city, and the big argument that I hear is that we can't develop more than 5,000 units in the city because of the capacity of the water plant. Now, we have the Biscayne Aquifer and we have the Florida Aquifer. And what's happening now is we're going to start getting salt water intrusion. I handed all the council people, and I believe the manager and yourself, a thing for reverse osmosis. They're doing it. They did it in San Diego. There's no reason why we can't do it here to convert salt water into fresh water. And the problem that we're going to have, the people that control the water, don't think in the near term, think in the long term. The people that control the water control the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Gwen, you guys have anything for infrastructure?
Okay, North Miami on 7th Avenue. Here that we stop at 143rd Street East, is that correct?
About there.
And 135th Street on the west side, correct? Okay, so you're talking about doing a revamping 7th Avenue. Okay, so in order to revamp what you're trying to revamp, that means you need to annex from 135th Street to 143rd, because you will have one side of the street, because the other side belongs to the county. I don't know how you're going to make that look like something. And anyway, if you go from 119th Street up to 135th Street, you really haven't really done anything to 7th Avenue. This needs to be in conjunction with Edmondson if that's her district. And the entire 7th Avenue needs to work on. How many blocks is that? 6 blocks? How many blocks is that?
About 10 blocks.
About 10 blocks, and you've spent all this money on one side of the street. Okay, really? I mean, it still is going to look like you've done nothing, really. Okay, now I do not have anything against Keystone and the people that live in Keystone, but you want a guard gate. Why can't you pay for your own guard gate? Okay, is this a gated community? You got your own thing going on? I mean, if you give them a guard gate, I live on Griffin Boulevard. Laura, don't we want us a guard gate too? We don't? Okay, but I don't think they should have a guard gate either. You know, just get rid of the guard gate and all the security and the police and all that. Oh, somebody agree. Okay. Land acquisition. Okay, so you're going to acquisition the land for what purpose?
More green space. We could actually, to alleviate some of the flooding that you're talking about, if we do buy your house maybe with the land thing and stop flooding in the area.
Okay, so we have more problems by my house than just flooding. You need to pull up the sewage out of the ground and reroute it. And if you're going to float this bond for $150 million, you said?
Well, we don't have a price yet.
Okay, so whatever you float this bond for, that needs to be configured before you do anything. Because if you don't, you won't have a North Miami. You won't have a North Miami. Just face the fact. Because, you know, right now, every single day we're breathing in the fumes from the sewage. I mean, what are you going to do about it? We sit here, we talk about this paint and building these buildings and doing all this stuff, but that is not going to do anything for those of us that live here and have to breathe. We will all be dead.
Thank you, Ms. West. For the record, I live here too, Ms. West. Next. Oh, come on. You're already here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it quicker. The first idea we came up at table 1A was build sidewalks on sections of the city where it's sidewalk less. That means there's no sidewalks in those sections. And replace the broken sidewalks in the other sections. Number 2, install modern energy efficient street lights in all residential areas. Replace all wooden pole street lights. Standardize a uniform system of all street lights. It's the same style. So when you come into the city, you know you're in North Miami. Not this style that we have. The modern ones over on the west side. And then we have wooden poles over on Keystone, or the old-fashioned ones in the business district and Keystone Point. Bury the lines for the street lights. First, replace all water mains, the water plant, the secondary pipes. The secondary pipes are the secondary mains along 2nd, 5th, 12th Avenue. The sewage system inside the city before we do the street lights and the sidewalks. Number 4 is bioswale, prevented flooding along Biscayne canals, Keystone Point, and San Souci State canals, and other small ecosystem solutions to save money and energy. Number 5, speed humps and traffic calming. And number 6, uniform style of street lights in the commercial district. That's all ideals from table 1A.
Table 5. One infrastructure need that we need all over the city is to deepen our storm drains and create a more consistent, regular cleaning schedule. They get overgrown and it doesn't appear that they are being cleaned. And a lot of them are not sufficient to take in the rainwater and stormwater that we get, which causes overflow. We do not support financing guard gates for any neighborhood. We'd like a plan to facilitate bike lanes in the city that are safe. We'd really like more specific information about projects that this bond will finance. These are great general topics, but if we could really see what we need in this city, find out how much it's going to cost, and the city comes to the residents and actually tells us what these quotes are, we'd have a lot more confidence in voting for the bond or not voting for the bond. So more specific costs and project descriptions. Also investigate underground power lines in areas where it's feasible. That might help in situations like Irma. Thanks.
Thanks, Laura. Anybody else? Oh, come on up, come on down.
Thank you. First thing, our table had a little question about how specific corridors are selected for these improvements, like 7th Avenue. As far as we know, I mean, DOT's put plenty of improvements in there a few times. So I don't know how 7th Avenue is selected as a specific corridor for infrastructure improvements. Sidewalks are necessary all the time. We agree with that. And we want the West Dixie Highway corridor looked at as an infrastructure need in the same sense that you're looking at 7th Avenue. No guard gates for private property. That's a simple one. Nobody here wants guard gates for Sanssouci or Keystone, except the people that live there, and they got to pay for it themselves. Land acquisition should be on an as-needed basis to complete a project, not just a blanket by going out and buying property unnecessarily. And traffic calming devices are always important. Thank you.
Okay. Transportation. As you guys know, we do have, and the only thing that we do have listed under transportation is for the train station, Transit Village. That's the only project that we do have listed. If anybody wants to, either Bill probably has something for transportation, I'm sure. Laura, you have something for transportation also? All right, we're going to let Bill give us a brief 2-minute transportation idea.
I think I could do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then Kenny will follow up with something. Okay, regarding transportation, we're all pretty much aware that 125th Street, the two-way spine going through the city gets kind of congested, and it's not too desirable. One possibility might be to think ahead a bit, make 125th Street from the railroad tracks to the canal going west, make that purely westbound. And then from the bridge going over the canal, going down Griffin and connecting to 123rd Street, go eastbound. So 123rd Street, which is now the south half is residential and part of the north half would be eastbound. What this would allow is sort of a situation where rather than having 6 lanes of congestion on 125th, we might be able to have more of like a Hollywood that you see in Hollywood with some parking, more trees, more desirable, more of a destination. It would allow some of that traffic to go to 123rd Street. It then creates a sandwich space for commercial activity between 125th and 123rd, going from the railroad tracks to the canal, where they converge at the railroad tracks. That could be combined with a new train station so that it's like sort of a dual overpass and unites both locations and reduces congestion, reduces a single access way. We now have dual access. And at the bridge, it sort of goes together. It also gives a little bit more of a tour through the city by going through Griffin Park and uniting more of the city. Thank you for consideration. And Kenny has something regarding transportation.
Okay. Folks, may I have your attention, please? Hello? May I have your attention? As you well know, we're going to get a train station, okay? And the CRA is funding it. And we're doing a study right now where we're going to put the train station, so forth and so on. Now, one of the things I had suggested is between Northeast 123rd Street, parallel with the railroad track road, from 16th Avenue over, we go high-rise. Don't, oh, high-rise, how dare you? 30 stories, 20 stories, what have you. The Urban Land Institute, if this city's going to survive, we got to develop it. This nonsense of burying our heads in the sand, let me finish. It's right by the railroad tracks here. It's not going to put cars on the road. You got millennials growing up. They want to live in a place where they can work, live, and occupy the space in the same area. When they built this big Ferris wheel in London, one of the things that the Urban Land Institute found out is that we did not encourage residential development. So if you have residential development, business development, retail development in the same area, and this is an ideal place for it, Go downtown, go down to Doral, you see what I'm talking about. They live, work, and play in the same area, and what it's going to do for us is give us a tax base to pay this bond issue. We can bury our heads in the sand and say no to development. Well, you know what? Oh, traffic is here. Well, I tell you what, traffic is here. We're getting all of North Miami Beach's traffic. They got 30-story buildings going up. Carol, may I have your attention, please? Carol, hello? I didn't talk when you're talking. They're building 30-story buildings up there, but we're going to get the traffic and they're going to get the taxes. Thank you.
Oh, Jim has something for transportation. Come on, Jim.
Mine's going to be short.
Okay.
I'm probably going to talk loud. We need another tri-rail station at Northeast 151st Street to service the residents at Solimi, FIU, and other future residential developments in the Upper Boulevard. We're going to have one at 123rd. Let's do one at 151st.
Anybody else with anything for transportation? Gwen, you have something for transportation? Okay. Come on.
High-rise buildings you're talking about. The high-rise buildings right here at 125th Street and 123rd and where? Okay. First of all, we're so, the ground, the density of the ground cannot handle that. The density of the ground cannot handle that. The ground is too soft. Okay, but it's too soft. We have too much water. We have too much water for that. Behind, I think where they sell roses or something over there. It's a flower shop off of Biscayne. Runs behind, by the railroad tracks. Okay, wouldn't that be a better place if you're going to have a train station? And not in the middle of all of the traffic off of 125th Street, 123rd Street in Biscayne? I mean, as far as the train station goes, on 125th, if you could look at, for a moment, the design center, 40th and about Northeast 2nd and Miami Avenue. They've taken 40th, 139th, and 38th, and they've made that a beautiful, like, downtown kind of area. So for the downtown, if we were to correct our infrastructure as far as the stormwater and the sewage, we can divert that traffic to those three areas for a downtown North Miami, and the transportation utilizing more of those city buses that you already have on the street.
I would just like to make one statement regarding transportation within the city of North Miami. All these ideas of improving our transportation system sound great, except you got to realize that most of these thoroughfares are state highways. They're run, operated, and managed by the state of Florida. It is up to the city of North Miami to ask for help from the state of Florida, but ultimately we have no decision in how these corridors are going to be operated. They are operated by the state of Florida. That said, also, I'd like to point out that North Miami is a drive-through city. 80 to 90% of the traffic that goes through our city is by non-residents. So how are we going to stop, with all the growth around us, this? It's impossible to stop. We could only mitigate it. And we're not the ones to mitigate it. It's going to be the state of Florida. Thank you.
Okay, we're going over to technology. I think I want to skip technology. If nobody's going to throw anything at me. Technology is some stuff that we were looking at, I guess, city-wise. Some technology projects. Let's skip over that. Affordable housing. will be the next one. I'd like to hear some of the ideas for affordable housing. Do we want to talk about that for a minute, or somebody want to scream a couple things out? Let's talk about it for 3 minutes. Write it down, and we'll go over it with everyone if you have any affordable housing ideas. Come on up, Jim. You come on up next. Bill's only going to be 1 minute.
Oh, if I only, on this topic, if I only had more. I don't know if those of you know, much of the housing that's been created over the last 20 years or so, like 500 and some odd units, has mostly been affordable housing. That's the equivalent of having one building in other parts of this city. This entire city for 20 years has produced the essence of one quality high-rise. We wouldn't be having this meeting right now if our council had listened to the Planning Commission and others for years. Carol, could you please follow along? Thank you. Yes, please, Carol, please. Because I know, Carol, you've stopped development in our city year after year after year. You've put a blanket on it to stifle it. And this is an opportunity where we wouldn't need to have this affordable housing. I am. This is leading to affordable housing. All we've had is affordable housing. All we've had is affordable housing. And there's been no opportunity for private housing. And if we had that, you'd have the tax base, and this meeting would not be necessary. If we had done properly our land sale, that would have raised money, and we would not have had this meeting. So please consider that.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
I'm going to talk about affordable housing, but not really. Because if you look at some of the areas, like if you look at Northeast 6th Avenue, where we have a great deal of affordable housing, what our city lacks is infrastructure for the young people who live there. So when I was a kid and I had the benefit of growing up and going to the boys club and all the things they offered, and they have, our library needs help. We need for our kids soccer fields and places where kids can go and do their homework and do computers and hang out, spend time in a structured environment supervised by the park department, so that when they get out of school, instead of having to hang out in the corner in the parking lot, they can actually go somewhere, and maybe we can do something in that way so that our young people who live in the areas of our city which don't have enough parks, soccer fields, youth centers, will have something to do and learn structure and perhaps avoid learning about crime and doing other things that kids who don't have activities find themselves doing. So I'd like to see us, if we're going to spend money, we have some affordable housing. Let's improve the environment around it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Rowland. On all affordable housing from Table 1A for senior citizen and military veterans, and we ask that the affordable housing maintain appealing up to the community standards with retail mixed into housing, so you can take the retail and that can pay for the affordable housing. Like a grocery store, we did that in Chicago at Whole Foods. 6 stories is the limitation with green rooftop gardens. I think the elderly will like that, and it will be energy efficient if we put a green roof on a building. That's all the suggestions.
Anybody? Not making a face. Not making a face at all.
Okay. I agree that 6th Avenue has, affordable housing. Okay. But we do need affordable housing for senior citizens. As we age, we may not be able to stay in our houses anymore. So we need a community, for the elderly. So leave 6th Avenue for the young people that you talked about and the families. But can we allocate some of this land you're talking about to build affordable housing when, I get ready to move and sell my house? I have somewhere to go.
Thank you, Ms. West. again, please write down these ideas on the paper so we can make sure we include them in our notes and when we start doing the numbers for the project. So we're down to the last one. I thank everyone for their patience. Sustainability. No, we skipped over technology. Sustainability. We're going to take 5 minutes for sustainability. We have a couple examples there for that staff placed on the paper, but please write down some sustainability projects. We're going to give 5 minutes.
Regarding the items on sustainability, first and foremost, the most important things that our table seems to feel is that the sewer and water systems be updated. If we're going to have a bond issue where we have to spend a lot of money, our sewer and water systems have to be updated. There are people here who went through some extraordinarily unpleasant experiences with sewer backups, and it's not fair to them as residents or us as a city to have any of our residents suffer because of outdated sewer problems. Regarding the swales, it is imperative that we slowly replace the black olives that are on all our swales around the city with native trees. Oak trees do not break in hurricanes. Gumbo limbos do not break in hurricanes too much. Florida satin leaves do not break too much. Neither do palm trees for some reason. But if you looked at Sans Souci and you saw the Ficus benjaminas tumble down during Irma, you will know. And that's an expensive cost to bring up a tree that has fallen and to drill out. Additionally, I'd like to see pavers on the swales where the swales can drain. But there are a lot of swales around the city that are sand. No grass, no pavers, just plain old dirty sand. And if we're going to beautify our city and make it sustainable, we should have some sort of beautification project there. Lastly, but not leastly, Bill Previtel brought to my attention, and for once I agree with him, that when we have any kind of building developments, that the parking goes underneath. That will allow green space around it. I can say that we have a condominium in my neighborhood that is 4 stories tall. It has most of the parking underneath the building, and they do have some lovely green space around the condos, which in turn make the neighborhood look better. So that's our ideas on sustainability. Thank you.
Table 1A, bike paths, bioswales, like in your example with the alley, green spaces, more green spaces, green roofs, energy efficient lights, community gardens, and solar wind renewable energy solutions. That's all solutions on 1A.
Come on, Bob.
Come on, Bob.
Additional all of that, we need to do something about sea level rise. Whether we put pumps in someplace along the waterfronts, we build levees. I come from New Orleans. The entire city's underwater. But so the levee system throughout town that holds the water back for the last couple hundred years. So the city, we just went through it, and we're going to go through it again. So whatever, if we're going to float a bond, we need to defend this city against rising water.
Ms. West, come on.
Okay, sir, you talked about upgrading the sewage system. I think we need to change the sewage system because the lines that's underneath the grounds are too small for all of the sewage that's going through there. And then there's something about your pumping station that it cuts off because of some ball or whatever, and it's off for a certain amount of time. And when it goes off, guess what happens? The manholes open up and we get 56,000 gallons of sewage out of that manhole. So instead of talking about upgrading the sewage system, we need to change it. That sewer line that runs across the Pocket Park from the bridge over down 131 Street needs not be there at all. Okay, at one time, I think it was Kevin Burns talked about moving that sewer line from in the middle of the street like that and run it in the back of the canal somehow like that. If you can run the sewer line over the canal, over the bridge, I'm quite sure you can run it down the street and then down 135th Street where there's no, people living there. You don't have to, if it explodes, you don't put people, you don't give us, you don't make us homeless. Okay? So as far as the sewage system, that needs to be changed. The trash, you need to fire that company. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, but we need a whole new trash, how we pick up trash, and our city needs to be cleaned. And if our sanitation people that we've hired don't know how to do this job, so you need a new one. I moved to North Miami. Every morning we had street cleaners. A street cleaner come by every single morning. I haven't seen a street cleaner and God knows when. We've changed this city. I guess I'm going to be like Donald Trump and say we need our city back. We need our city back. And the trees that you plant, those trees need to be the proper type of trees that you're going to plant so that when we have hurricanes, they don't grow all out of place. And when we have hurricanes, just like this last one, we didn't really have a whole lot of damage because we had a big, huge hurricane. That happened because we had trees everywhere. Our sewer lines were not working well. We have too many people living in this city. A lot more people live in this city now than when the city was organized. So, if we need to talk about sustainability, we need to talk about how we are going to manage this water if we plan to have a city. Now, as far as Sunkist Grove, I don't live over there, but, we do have some nice folk at my table that lives at Sunkist Grove, and they're asking that this community be a experimental solar power facility. The community center, you're saying? Okay. So that's that. Thank you.
Okay, that was our last category. Again, we did have comment cards on your tables. I hope you wrote something on them. Please leave them on your table. We're going to have them picked up. The manager's going to come give a word. We're going to have another meeting on the 21st at Joe Celestine Center for people who didn't make this meeting.
We have Constant Contacts, which is a service that you can sign up on our website, put your email address, and every newsletter and communications and things, flyers, all that stuff gets emailed out. I wanted to make this point. Facebook, our Instagram page, all of those social media platforms is one of the avenues by which we get information out. And we're trying to fine-tune some of the stuff to work on timing. Right, Bob? We're going to work on timing to get some of this information out. That being said, I want to thank everybody for your input tonight. I apologize for the heat here. If you approve the public facilities section of the bond, I assure you all ACs will be working. It wasn't planned. It was not planned. It wasn't planned. Thank you guys for your time. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week.
I know everybody's asking about the cost. We're going to take this in the next meeting, take all the projects, put them back together, come back, and then we'll have another 2 meetings to go over what we came up with. Thank you, everybody.